I'm a thinker, observer, the baddest man you ever heard of.
All right, welcome back everyone to the 2020 Vision podcast. We are on episode 9. We are rolling right through these episodes, y'all. I'm telling you, this is going to be an exciting end to the season. We have season 3 coming up in August and some more stuff coming up soon. So I'm excited for today's episode because I have a special guest here today. How are you doing, Miss Eki?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll get right into the topic.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Igbinoba. I am a third year Hampton student, and I am a nursing student as of right now. And yeah, I'm from Los Angeles, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome, from the Cali area. So we all know
Yes,
this full of Cali students. You don't have to
the
talk too much about that. Y'all love representing at HU.
West Coast.
And
Yeah.
so today, folks, we're going to be talking about topic, excuse me, of taking your time. So if we're talking about being in our 20s, being in college, and for the both of us who have done multiple things that are on our campus and have been around different experiences with people, from different campuses, I think when you look at the term taking your time, you have to also think about like giving yourself grace in a lot of the stuff that you do. A lot of people don't slow down and actually like evaluate the things that are going on in their life, which might be something that they need. That being growth, self reflection. I have a hard time doing that too. There's like before this summer, I had a hard time really self reflecting, taking my time on things. Really, I felt like I was rushing my collegiate experience and rushing to get out of college, simply because certain things that either were making me uncomfortable or I just didn't enjoy some experiences on campus or off campus.
Right.
But for you, how would you describe what like take your time means? How would you describe you personally in your life? Take your time on different pursuits that you have, things that you aspire to do, things that you have done, and like how the lessons incorporate into those.
That's a great question, and I really love this topic just because this is definitely something that I have been working on, like in this season of my life, is taking my time. Um, so for me, taking my time is kind of just being in my own pace, really. And one thing that I do, which is really bad, I look at what everybody else is doing and I look at my own goals and see who's already done it. And I kind of, make myself feel bad for not being where, other people are and where I want to be. Um, and I kind of had to like sit with myself because it brought me like a lot of anxiety, a lot of self doubt. And I was just like, wow, like this person is doing this. And I'm like, I'm still at square one. And this person is like, years ahead of me. And I had to like really think like, everybody started from somewhere, you know what I mean? And at some point, years from now, somebody can look back at me and be like, oh, wow, I want to be where she's at. So, taking my time is literally just being in my own pace, like knowing that I will get to where I want to be, but in my own progress, in my own journey, and to really just stop comparing myself to other people and just allowing myself to have my own experience and learning my own lesson at my own pace, at my own time, and knowing that I will get to the goal, like the same goal that I want that everybody else probably will already have, but it will be in a way that like is an advantage to myself and like my growth and my development. So yeah, that's just what I've been learning so far. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful journey if you think about it. Something that I've been doing over the summer to kind of slow down is kind of like writing, a journal of what I do. So, having multiple things on my plate, having sometimes too much things on my plate, and trying
Right.
to figure out like how can I balance my time on everything? How can I put this certain amount of time on this thing, or even just make sure that I give something a certain amount of time? I think it's hard as with college students and also as professionals trying to balance that. And I see in my household, my family does it all the time. I don't know, how they balance it, but they're constantly going from one thing to another, sometimes in different cities and different states and different parts of their career and how they manage that. And so I look at it and I say, how does that not stress you out? And I think for me, it stresses me out a lot because I'm like, I need like every little bit of detail and everything to be organized in order for me to not get overwhelmed. The amount of things that I do just day to day basis
Mm.
get overwhelming. And I think if you don't have those practices of, slowing down, taking your time on stuff, make sure that you spread out your kind of like routine of things that you're doing. I think that's important too. And then
Mhm.
also ensure that you set like certain expectations of, what you want to get done, what can get done long term. I was talking about this to my mom the other day. We were talking about like what's coming up in senior year and just like the final, kind of stage of college. And
Mhm.
she asked me like, what was I going to do differently in the last 3 years than now? And I told her, I think the biggest thing that I can do is, hold myself accountable and also make sure that I track all of my progress. And I know many people, have a hard time doing that, tracking progress, feeling like they are supposed to be somewhere else when they're not even enjoying where they are in the moment. I think that's a huge loss for a lot of us. And so I would also champion to all of you watching is that if you have, somewhere that you want to be, let's say it's later in the future, let's say it's tomorrow, next week, let's say a year from now, you got to track your progress along the way because if you don't, you're going to lose your purpose, on the inside of what you want to do. And so some may say like, oh, I have a goal, of let's say losing 20 pounds this month, or I want to read 10 books, in the next 10 weeks, or I want to do, some type of mentorship this entire summer. You have to be able to learn how to track your progress and know that you can do a little bit at a time. So, speaking into that, how do you feel like your day to day progress? Like, how do you feel like you manage your work life balance? Because I know that's a huge thing for us as college students to make sure we manage our work and life balance, whether it be socially, academically.
Mhm.
When we go back to school, it could be really difficult, to balance everything because you have so much happening at one time. You're trying to do so much at one time. You're watching everybody else do so much at one time.
Mhm.
It can get overwhelming for you.
Right. Um, for me, and I post this all the time. I like almost every day when I know that I'm going to be busy. I create an agenda for the day. Like, from the time I wake up, like if it's 9 a.m. prayer, whatever it is, I put it down so I can hit those points, so I can look throughout the day and be like, okay, check this off, check this off. And it's really helped me to like prioritize like what I need to do. And sometimes it can get overwhelming when it's like you got so many things and it's like your head is in 8 different areas. But when you sit down and you say, okay, you know what, I have to do, like, for example, I have to do a podcast with, Wesley at this time. I'm going to put that, and I have to do this, and I have to, and I just prioritize my time to make sure that I'm not overwhelming myself and, just giving my time, myself like time to do what I have to do and, not feeling overwhelmed. And yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that I really do. But I really liked how you talked about, journaling, just because I also journal, not as much as I want to. I probably journal like once every 2 weeks or so. But journaling helps with like tracking your progress. Like literally, it allows you to know that, wherever you came from is better, is way better. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like one thing about it is that probably months ago, I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And then I'm sitting in myself right now and I'm like, I'm not where I want to be at. But it's like looking back at my journal, I'm like, this is exactly where you wanted to be. You know what I mean? So it's like you just have to keep going and give yourself grace and knowing that, just 1% better every single day, you will get to where you want to go. And that was really good because the journaling really, really helps. And especially when I look back on my progress, I'm like, you can't pressure yourself to be years ahead of you. It's a month to month basis. Every 3 months you're not going to be the same person you were 3 months ago. So yeah, that's just one thing. It's one foot after the other. Really, that's my whole motto. Like, for everything really. So yeah.
It's important, I think, we sit back and really realize that the more we pile up on the plate, I think the more overwhelming it can get. Obviously, And you and I can speak to a testament because of the school we go to. When you're on a campus like that, where everyone feels like they have to do everything,
Mhm.
I think it's quite overwhelming just as a whole society that we have that mantra. As a campus, we feel like, oh, I got to do this because someone else is doing it, or I'm going to do this because someone else is doing. I'm going to do this simply because I feel left out, and I don't feel like I have anything on my plate. But I think many, kind of like walk away from the focus that obviously academics come first. And I think, having the extracurriculars, having the side quests, as you call them, having, things that you want to do on the side, all of that is important. But you
Mhm.
have to remember that sometimes going back to what your main focus is important too, because that allows you to kind of just stay like narrow focused on what you need to do. And for those who lose sight of what they want to do, for those who lose focus, I know I do it all the time. Like, there's some times where I just sit here and daydream just about certain stuff because I'm
Yeah.
like getting stuff done physically, but mentally I'm like literally in the clouds. I'm in space trying to figure out like what's the purpose behind it, what's the reasoning, how am I going to let this, affect my life somehow? How is this, certain assignments, certain projects, certain part of my career, certain things I do as a hobby? How's
Mhm.
all this going to play into my life, into the future? And we have to think about that as young adults and as collegiate. So definitely important for all of you to take that away. And so talking about a little bit, about taking your time, slowing down. That's a main component of who we are as people. And I think you have to first talk about the self evaluation part. I think that's something constantly that we have to emphasize. I know you're a big, part of that is the self evaluation, figuring out what things you can change, what things you can play around with, what
Right.
things you can put into perspective. And it's something that I really want everyone to start doing is just evaluating your life to see what can you take out that's obviously not good for your life. What things you can add that may be positive to your life. It doesn't have to be perfect because nobody's perfect. There's things, and one of the biggest things you can do is create, a goal list. I think that's huge for many people who have goals and dreams of what they want to do. If you don't write it down and if you don't envision your stuff like out on paper, you're not going to get it done.
Exactly.
That's what I believe in. Like this summer, I could have walked into this summer saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get this accomplished. But if I didn't write out my dreams and my goals, it wouldn't have got done. Because then I wouldn't have had a plan for it. I wouldn't have had a strategy for it. I wouldn't have had to wait for it to succeed. Wouldn't have had time for it to get reflected on and actually get some feedback so I can make it better. So,
Mm.
in your opinion, how do you, stay on top of your goals and your dreams that you have for your future, and how do you, what advice would you give to others who kind of struggle with keeping all of that at the top of the
Mhm.
list?
That was a good question. For me personally, um, I always want to like bring God into whatever I want to do, because the God is the creator and the author of like my purpose, what He wants me to do. So the first thing I always do, if I have something on my heart that I do want to do, I bring God into the equation. Like, God, is this what you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? How will I, pursue this? And I kind of ask Him, like, I know you put this on my heart for a reason. So can you please, like, tell me how I can achieve this? So one thing I always do is always put God in the equation, but I always write things down. Like, journal. I have like literally a book of like all of my prayers and stuff like that, like things that I want. So I'll put like, this is something that I want. I want to, get this internship, I want to pass this test, whatever it is. Like, I put it into my journal, what I want to achieve. And then I seen this podcast and they were like, you should always put three things under it. Don't just put what you want, but also put how you're going to achieve it. You know what I mean? So if you're saying like, I want to make this amount of money or save this amount of money at the end of the month. So how are you going to do that? It's not going to be, spending on Starbucks every day like I know that I do. But like, how are you going to actually do that? What are you going to do to achieve that? So 3 ways under it. How are you going to do that? What are you going to do every day to achieve that goal, to make sure that that happens? So I think it's just like, one, just trusting in God, and then always making the little steps. But the third thing I would always say is that your mindset is so important. Like the way
Yeah.
that you think is going to be literally the outcome of like if it's going to work or if it's not going to work. And I felt like a lot of things that didn't work out for me was because I didn't have the mindset. I was already doubting myself even before I started. So that's one thing. I just fix your mindset. Say this is going to happen. Trust God. Put how are you going to do it, and then you have to like put in that mindset. Like, okay, this is going to happen because I'm putting the work towards it. And like I said, not comparing yourself to this person, that person that's already achieved it or who's ahead of you, saying I'm going to do it and it's going to come at my own time, at my own pace, at my own progress, but it's going to happen no matter what. You know what I mean? So those are the three things that I definitely do put in place to make sure that whatever my dreams are, my goals are, happen, and I'm pursuing it in the best way possible. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that, oh my goodness. The number of times I could sit here and literally like say, and agree with the mindset part, because that's literally 90% of everything that we do. Like a lot of people, the way they think about things and their mindset about things, the like finished product slash like solution of what they're looking for, that's already kind of like in their mind. I think they just have to apply it and figure out a way to get there. I think a lot of people think about what they can do and think about, how they can do it. They just don't envision it, on paper, and they don't actually build a strategy and plan to get it done. And I learned that as a hard lesson this past year. Just with a lot of stuff I did with my academics, with, political situations, with professional situations and circumstances, like I learned that 90% of it was a mindset. And then once I changed that and I was like, this is what's going to happen, this is how I want my life to be, and this is how it's going to play out, everything just started falling in line. Like literally everything just started working out the way it was supposed to. And I think a big part of that, like I talked about on a previous episode, is faith. Like literally having faith that, you can do what you put your mind to. You work hard, you set up the right resources, set up the right networking and connections, make sure that you have, a backup plan in terms of, if it fails or even, hits a certain point where you don't feel like it's successful, make sure you have a backup plan. So definitely agree with you on that. And to go to the last point, how do you feel? Because I feel like our generation sometimes, gets caught up in the moment of things and caught up in like, what we're doing day to day. We don't kind of like envision the future and see like what the possibility could be. And I grew up on an older generation mindset. So for me, everything that I do, I see the future of it and I try to build upon the future, not what I'm doing tomorrow. So in your opinion, how would you say that others or people watching could, start to live by that mindset of saying like, this is what I want my future to be, this is what I want to happen in the future, and then how can they strategize and plan for that and make sure that they don't get caught up in the moment or get overwhelmed or worried about the simplest thing.
Right. For me personally, I think I live by like, I'm not living for today, I'm living for tomorrow as well, because like you can't just build your life for just temporary goals. I feel like we also have to make sure that we're looking at the larger picture. And I know like especially this past semester, I was just so busy and it was just like, okay, I'm doing, but it was like, I need to understand why I'm doing it. What's the purpose behind what I'm doing? Am I doing it because this person's doing it? Am I doing it because it looks cool? Am I doing it because, that this person's making a lot of money? Is it going to make me happy? Like, these are so many things that I had to like really sit with myself. Like, why am I doing all this stuff? I'm just making myself busy. But, I think it's always asking the question why. Like, why am I doing this? What is the purpose? You know what I mean? That's just really what it is. Like, okay, for example, if I decide to buy something I know I don't need and I know I'm trying to save money, my purpose is like, so why am I buying it? That's not gonna, help me in the long run. But my whole thing is just like, you have to think about, your why. how is this going to turn out? What is the outcome going to look like a month from now, 6 months from now, years from now? You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I definitely do think about. And just making sure that whatever you do, the outcome is going to be positive towards your future. So that's one thing I definitely do think about. Just really just sit with yourself and say, okay, why am I doing this? And, if you're not coming up with good answers, you probably shouldn't be doing it. And I think that's like the best thing, because we can't just invest into the now. We got to invest into the future, because we're going to come 10 years later and like, dang, so what did I do in my 20s that I could have done, to build myself up in my 30s? You know what I mean? So it's like we're in this prime age. Like, I'm even sitting with myself like I'm 20, like we're 20, we're 21, we're 22. This is the time that people in their 30s or 40s are wishing they can come back to our time. You know what I mean? Like, we can do so much. Like, the world is literally in our hands. Like, we can do anything. Like, we're just young. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can do anything. We can network. We could, like, start investments. You know what I mean? Like, we can do so much to, like, set ourselves up. So by the time we're 28, going into those 30 years, we're still young, and we built ourselves up to be like, I'm happy with my life the way it is, and we're not still trying to climb. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing that we always have to think about, is not just living for the now, not just living for the temporary, but looking like, okay, how is this going to benefit me, along the line? So that's something that I really want people to, kind of think about with everything. Like, even choosing a major, joining organizations, getting internships, like just not just doing just to do, but, thinking about how it's going to affect you in the long run. So that's one thing I would really say.
Yeah, no, that pretty much summed it up perfectly. And I think for everyone else, a good friend of mine said, these, and you said it too, like these are the pivotal years of our lives. I mean, I can't sit here and think of anything that's more important than being in your 20s. I feel like, this is where you have room to make all the mistakes that you want to make, and then, grow from it, reflect from it, try big things, take risks, and also learn from your mistakes. I think this is the decade to do it. Because if you don't do it during this decade, it's gonna be a lot harder, later in your 30s, 40s, 50s. That's hard to come back from. And I know, like, our generation being in college today has really had a kind of hand holding type of method, just given more lineage to mistakes we've made, and just, giving us more time to recover from things. But I would just tell everybody, enjoy it. Just, enjoy this time. Learn what you can learn. You can learn from pretty much anything nowadays. Like, I sometimes will really sit on YouTube and TikTok and literally just figure out what else I can learn about stuff. It don't have to be the most boring thing. It don't have to be the most fun thing. It can just be something that I didn't know, today, that I can carry on tomorrow. There's this really powerful quote that I love, that I reposted today. It says, once you realize the power of the tongue, you won't say just anything. Once you realize the power of your thoughts, you won't entertain just anything. Once you figure out the power of your presence, you won't just be anywhere. And I think that, plays into who we are as people, talking about the way we carry ourselves, who you talk to, what you talk about, how you talk. And that plays into your character and your personality. Realizing the power of your thoughts, what you're thinking about doing, what you're thinking about, how you're thinking in life, how you're thinking about your future. And then your power of your presence is making sure that you aren't giving all of yourself to, one moment, making sure that you're spreading yourself around, but also making sure you're being careful about that. Because obviously, the world today is a much scarier world, and there's a lot of things going on, but make sure that you're making your presence feel known, in the areas that you need to, in terms of your career and the field that you want to go into, and the people that you're not trying to network with, but also making sure that you remove all the negativity and the drama from your life, and say that my presence does not belong here, because this is not the best, it's not going to be the best outcome for me. So all of it is important for all of you to take that in. So if you have anything else you would like to say, I will leave the floor up to you, and enrich these people in your knowledge.
No, the last thing I probably would just want to say is that, like you said, we are in our prime years. We do need to just live. Like, we need to live. This is the time that we can just build the foundation. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, if you want to start the business, start the business. Like, if you want to start the podcast, start the podcast. Like, just do it. Take the risk. It's like, you can't fail, really. Like, and when I think about it, I'll be like, okay, what if, something does not work out? It's like, you're going to learn from it. You know what I mean? Like, if something doesn't work out, there is a reason for it. And that's why you take it as a lesson, and a lesson comes, learning, and learning comes growth. And like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I feel like this is the time where we just need to allow ourselves to be us, and allow ourselves to just be focused on ourselves. You know what I mean? And I feel like we need to pour into ourselves, so we can come back and like, whoa, this is what I grew for myself. You understand? So it's just like, we need to take the pace at our own pace, do what we need to do for ourselves. And I feel like one thing I can tell myself is to stop living for other people, but living for myself. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah, just stop living for other people. Like, we literally need to live for ourselves. Like, our lives is our lives. Like, I'm realizing that, like, we can only build our own lives. Like, our parents are going to help us. Our friends will probably give us a boost. Cool. But when we have a thought, we have a vision, you are the one to cultivate that. You're the one who's going to move forward with that. If your name is on it, your name is on it. You can't sit here with self-doubt. You can't sit here and be scared, because the next person will do it and be successful. And then you'll look like, dang, I wish I should have started it. Or, I wish and I could have, so it's just like, stop looking at, one thing about myself, I will sit here and look at TikTok like, I wish I had this, I wish I could do this. But it's like, you had that same thought a year ago and you didn't do anything. You know what I mean? So it's really like, just stop looking at other people and just cultivate your own visions and take the steps towards it. Don't compare yourself. You know what I mean? And, just take the step by step, and you'll get to where you want to be at. And yeah, like, that's what I would just leave people with. And yeah, that's it, really.
Yeah. So you heard it here, folks. Do not compare yourself to other people. Make sure that you are putting yourself first, investing in yourself, making sure that, obviously you can't do this life stuff alone, but you definitely can vision your future. You can, put things in perspective and say, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to take care of. And as simple as that it can get, just do it. Honestly, like, that's what I tell people all the time. Literally just do it. Stop overthinking about stuff. Stop, putting kind of like a blockage / obstacle course in front of you to block you away from your dreams and your passion, and just do it. It's not going to be perfect, obviously. Like, that's just how life works. Nothing is going to be perfect that you do, but at least you tried. You have resources, and if you don't have resources, there are plenty of resources out here in this world that you can, go get and receive and connect and network with people. So always put that into perspective. And if I can leave, everybody with one thing, I would just say that it is never too late to start something. Honestly, like, you are never, unless you are on the brink of your deathbed, it's never too late. Like, you can literally do what you want to do in this world. We have the freedom. It is a crazy world. There's a lot of things that could stand in your way. There's a lot of things that could block your path, but it's your choice and your decision to, see if you're going to let that stop you from being great. So that definitely is something I want everyone to develop as a mindset at the end of the day.
That's good. That's really good.
But thank you so much, Eki. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you to everyone for being a part of this journey. We have so much more to talk about. This year is going to be something special. I'm excited to see what everyone does and accomplishes. I feel like this summer was much needed for a lot of people to just take their time, make sure that they are, balancing their life, make sure that they're doing things to help themselves, invest in themselves, and grow stronger mentally, physically, and spiritually. So thank you again. It was a real pleasure, and I will see you all on the next episode.
Oh, thank you for having me.